Cheese and wine, wine and cheese. From whatever angle you want to approach this subject, it's a match made in heaven. There's something magical in the combination of the creamy delight of a cheese and a great glass of wine. There's only one problem though. Finding the perfect wine match for a cheese and vice versa is not always the easiest of tasks. But worry not, in this video I'm going to share with you our top 5 tips for mastering cheese and wine pairing. And what better occasion to do so than upcoming July 25th, which is the National Wine and Cheese Day. So without further ado, let's get started. Tip number 1 is to expand your possibilities by complementing and contrasting. Complementing the flavors of cheese with similar flavors of the wine is a good strategy. For example, the nutty flavors of an aged cheese like cheddar can marry well with an oaked Chardonnay because the toasty, nutty notes of the cheese recall those found in the wine. However, more often than not, contrasting flavors can also work just as well, and in some cases, even better. In the previous example, a fresh, acidic wine might also go just as well with the cheddar because the acidity of the wine will counterbalance and cut through the fattiness of the cheese, leaving a cleaner palate to finish off with. This same principle can also apply to texture. Normally, cheeses that have a rich and creamy texture will pair well with a full-bodied white wine that will complement that creaminess. But another great pairing, maybe sometimes an even better one, is to go with a sparkling wine in these cases, where the bubbles will contrast with the creaminess and cleanse the palate again. For example, one of my favorite pairings is to match Gorgonzola with Vigna Petrusa's Picolit, a Sauterne-like dessert wine from northeastern Italy. The saltiness and bitterness of the cheese are contrasted by the sweetness and the roundness of the wine. And more importantly, the intensity is well balanced so that neither flavor really overcomes the other. Which leads me up to tip number 2. Match intensity. So unless your goal is to showcase either the wine or the cheese, it's always a good idea to strive for a balance between the two in terms of intensity of flavor. The goal should be that after swallowing the wine, neither the flavor of cheese nor the flavor of wine is predominant, but rather the mouth is left clean with a pleasant aftertaste of both the wine and the cheese melded together. Moving on to tip number 3, beware of tannins. You might be tempted to pair your cheese platter with one wine to rule them all, and in that case, a bold red wine might sound like a good option, especially if the cheese platter is served at the end of a meal when such a big red is usually served. However, you need to be mindful of what cheeses are present in your lineup and how tannic the wine is. This can be because some molecules, and particularly bitter cheeses, can interact with a wine's tannins and can give you an unpleasant metallic-like aftertaste that emphasizes the bitterness, which can ruin the whole experience. So, leave those highly tannic wines like Barolos for a hard-aged cheese, and when in doubt, play it safe and pair the cheese platter with a white wine. In fact, an aromatic Gewürztraminer can be a better one wine to rule them all for a lot of circumstances in cheese pairings. Tip number 4 is, when in doubt, rely on regional pairings. Honestly, this is kind of true for food and wine pairing overall, not only for cheese. But there's a reason why many local wines seem to marry perfectly with staples of the cuisine of an area. After all, it's the result of deeply rooted traditions and the effects of the same terroir and climate that influence both the culture, the food, and the wine. Some examples: a Pecorino from Tuscany can pair with a Brunello, also from Tuscany, or have a look for a Munster paired with a Gewürztraminer from Alsace in France. Those are both great regional pairings for you to try out. And finally, tip number 5, don't be shy to experiment and try. At the end of the day, don't limit yourself with strict rules. Every palate is different, and your personal taste should always be the priority. Feel free to unleash your creativity, but don't be shy to try unusual pairings and experiment with different and less obvious kinds of wines, like a sweet wine, a late harvest wine, or even a fortified wine. You might just discover some wonderful surprises that you love. So there you have it, Vero's top 5 tips for pairing wine and cheese. If you want to dive deeper into this topic, I invite you to read our blog article on our website, verovino.com. I'll leave the link in the description below. So, subscribe to our channel because we are soon to release another video exploring more in-depth which wines are the best matches for each type of cheese. I'll see you with the next video. Bye!